Hi YouTube, ACDodd here again, and welcome to another episode of On the Road Tuning with me, ACDodd. And this time we are off to Colchester for a tuning weekend with the Ipswich Mini Owners Club. Let's get stuck in. So here we are up in Colchester for a tuning weekend, and I'm filming a selection of cars, so this is by no means all the cars. So this just gives you a selection of what we're looking at. So there's a lovely, I think this is a UK Minis competition winner. So very nice car. I'll have a look under the bonnet, see what we got. And I think we've got, have to excuse the lighting on this one because I can't get, there's a cover on, so I've got nowhere to put my magnetic lights. So in terms of the engine, we've just got a 1275 engine. I don't think there's anything special with it, other than it's just coming for a tune-up. So let's dig in. So as usual, the first thing I'm going to do is start with just checking the coil. Now, when we're doing these, these quicker sessions, we haven't necessarily got time to make sure everything's absolutely perfect. But what we've got to do is make sure it's working. So, and there's a good classic example. We've got three ohms, yeah, and we've got a 65D ignition, so that's not going to work straight away. All right, so this one needs another coil. So, interesting weekend this one. I went through a lot of coils, and this particular car had a 65D ignition and a 3 ohm coil. That's a recipe for a major problem. Let me explain. The problem with running the wrong ohm coil on these type of electronic later distributors is it can actually damage the module, and as we'll see later on, this one had a problem which I obviously had to fix. But the problem is it was caused by running the wrong coil. All right, now what I don't understand is how people fit the wrong coils when all they have to do is look in a manual. So here's a factory manual. Now this is for a Metro. Now that particular car uses the same setup as a Metro. So if we have a look in the manual and let's see what it says. So I've just turned to a page where it says 1.3 engine, yeah, 1.3 saloon. And then if we have a look down the page, we can see what it says about the ignition coil. Ignition coil type, resistance, okay, 0.78 plus or minus 0.08. Okay, so that's basically a 0.8 ohm coil. So with a 65D distributor, as it says there, 65D, you run a 0.8 ohm coil. There's nothing clever about that. You just need to look at your manuals about which coil that goes in. Unfortunately, we get many cars that come out for tunes, or I turn up to tunes, and they've all got the wrong bits fitted. So, you know, this is a problem, and it actually causes poor running and damages components. So you need to make sure you fit the right parts. So please, I urge people to start reading manuals and actually check what parts need to fit with what other components to work together properly. So pop start plugs out. Have a look what we got. So you can see that all dark. All right, that's not a good sign. So what we need to do is to have a look what's going on. We've also got resistor plugs. Okay, they are V-grooved, which is fine, but and the gap looks reasonable. But we're obviously too rich, and we clearly haven't got enough coil power. So we'll get those out all the way across and just see what they look like. Okay, so getting into this one, we've found quite a few problems. So obviously the coil was wrong, so that had a 3 ohm coil. We've now changed to a 0.8. I've actually used 4 this weekend, so yeah, really going through coils. People are still not getting the right coils for their on their engines. It's not necessarily the owner's fault, it's more of a case of the mechanics that have been working on them. The other thing that gone wrong with this one is our distributor was very poor. Okay, so we had a problem, well, a number of problems. When I changed the coil, I noticed that the timing changed massively. So obviously we had a problem with the module. So when I took the module off, there was absolutely no grip on those pins whatsoever. So what I actually decided to do was talk to the owner. The advance curve in this distributor wasn't ideal for this engine, so actually what we've done is we've changed the whole distributor for one with a new module and a recurved advance curve. Obviously we put that in and it's transformed the engine, so all we need to do now is dial the carburetor in. Carburetor looks fine, but we're just a bit lean on the needle. I've got a BDR needle, so we'll get that dialed in and we'll go from there. So yeah, this one turned into needing quite a few bits. So where I was trying to save the customer some money by just changing the module, I was unable to get the module to actually fit properly because the pins on the distributor body were actually way too loose. I couldn't tighten them up because they was loose. I'll have to strip the whole distributor down. I've got less than an hour to work on this car, so what with the advance curve in that distributor was too long and way too slow. So in this particular case, I had to sell the owner a replacement, basically a new ACDodd / PowerSpark distributor, which I've obviously recurved, and I've also made sure that obviously the connections are right, etc. Anyway, putting that in the engine transformed it, so it stopped messing about. The important thing to understand here is what was going on when I changed that coil on that original distributor. It started acting up massively, so the timing started to be erratic, so it was going forward and back, and you could hear it on the engine bucking and knocking as well. So yeah, when you get that scenario, it's usually loose connection stroke / damaged module, so that's why I went straight for the module. In this particular case, as I said, as you saw there, couldn't fit it, so I had to replace the whole lot. But I needed a different advance curve anyway, so it was just easier just to replace the lot. Anyway, solved the problem. Let's move on to the carb. So we got there with this one. So just to recap, high power high power coil, 0.8 ohm. Already had PowerSpark leads, new set of plugs, gapped at 35 power. Then we obviously had to change the distributor, which you already know about. That's an ACDodd PowerSpark recurve 65D. Moving on to the carburetor, the oil in the carb was absolutely fine. Already had, this has got, it's a standard 1275 Sprite engine. This engine had already come with a BDR needle. That was fine, but just too lean from 3,000 up through 5,000 RPM. So modified that, and yeah, she's ready to go. So we'll let the owner go at it, and I'm sure they're going to be very happy with that. I'll just put in here, sorry I didn't get the chance to get the owners on camera. Again, not everybody wanted to go on camera, but equally I didn't have the time between tunes to actually sort that out. So needless to say, the owner was very happy with the way that car was transformed. Clearly it went a lot better, a lot smoother, a lot more power, all the usual night and day comments, all that kind of good stuff. So without further ado, let's get on to the next car. Okay, another car this weekend. We've got a lovely Morris Minor. Now this one's not quite standard. So, lovely car. Got the AFR gauge in it as well. And under the bonnet, we got a nice tuned 1275. So let's get stuck into this and see what we can find. So what I'm doing here is checking the advance curve, and the reality is on this particular car, the owner, this had already been dynoed, but the owner wanted to bring it to me to make sure that he could get that fueling absolutely spot on. So as it turns out, we didn't quite get it spot on, purely because, again, time issue, but clearly we obviously found some problems. So what I was doing here is checking the advance curve, and I actually found out that the advance curve was actually spot on up the rev range until it got sort of past 4,000 RPM, and at that point it kept advancing. So right up until that point, we had about 29, 30 degrees, which is kind of okay. But by the time we got to 6,000 RPM, we were up at 38 degrees, which is just simply too much for a tuned engine. So what the owner did was effectively come up early before his slot, and he actually purchased a high power coil and one of my ACDodd recurve distributors, so he'd fit that in the engine. So you know, what I was obviously doing is checking his original unit and then obviously fitted the new unit, and that actually took 9 degrees off that advance, so it actually stopped it at 29 degrees to stop it over advancing. So that's why that was done, and he obviously enjoyed the benefit of much brighter sparks as well. So what you can see there is I'm just checking the fueling across the rev range, and you can see actually it was a bit fat low down in the rev range, so we were sort of 0.86 lambda, which is just too much fuel. So the owner knew that, which is one of the reasons why he brought it to me. So that was me just doing my initial measurements. So let's go back in and see what we do to correct that. We'll just see what's how it responds. Right, start it up. Now, to the uninitiated there, that might look like I'm just sitting there playing with it, revving it up and down. But actually what I'm doing is I'm going through a process called baselining and making sure the carburetor responds to the mixture. And after you change the needle, you need to put the base mixture setting back to the same place every time. Otherwise, you can't tell the changes you're going to make with different needles or when they modify the needles. So the rev in there is to settle the carb and obviously maintain temperature, so that the carburetor at least gets up to the right temperature with the exhaust heat, etc. So that's actually cut down. There was a lot of footage cut out there because there's a lot more running of the engine to actually make sure that happens, which is where a lot of the time goes when you're doing tuning.
I might have had this on the dyno as well, so just a little measure of that.
Yeah, that's about within a thou the other one, right? So, so what that tells us is in 2 goes, that's about where we need to be. So that's where I need to. I'm going to end up with 4.7, yeah, on this needle when we're done. But my first concern is to do exactly what you should have done last time, which is we'll just focus on the sensitive bit first and get that somewhere near right. Okay, so I've deliberately put in some film there which sort of slows down the video and kind of gives you an appreciation for some of the time. All right, so I had to probably have a go about 8, 9, maybe 10 goes at that needle to get it right. It was an extreme shape, needed to get that engine working properly. But the point is, on these tuning sessions, when I got basically an hour or less to be able to get it in, you can't always, there's not always the time on certain cars that actually need more time. And this is one of those cars where, because it had already been dynoed, I wanted to go with the needle or the spring that was in the carburetor. So hindsight there, I think we would have been better off to go with the yellow spring and then start again. But because the owner had already dynoed it, I knew what the full power fueling needed to be. So you could see me there talking about the full power fueling, and I would just copy that onto the needle I was making. Subsequently, the needle obviously was a lot better than when it came in, but it wasn't quite perfect, so more time's needed on that one. And I think when I get next time, we'll go with the yellow spring, start again and make a whole new needle. But I think I'd probably need more like 3 or 4 hours on that car to get it absolutely spot on, just because of the requirements and the way that particular engine required fuel from the SU. Okay, so we've got this Morris Minor all dialed in. It's not quite perfect, it's taken me a long time, and I've run out of time to actually get it absolutely perfect. What we have got is a little bit of harmonic vibration, so when we get up to 4,500 RPM, carburetor leans out slightly, and obviously pushing on it corrects that issue. So really, to get this absolutely perfect, we need to balance the flywheel. However, we have actually made a significant change. So we've got an ACDodd power spark recurve, high power ignition, obviously 0.8 amp coil. We're all timed in. We've got 29 degrees of maximum advance. The needle in it was a custom one done by the owner, and then he just overdone it a touch. So I've changed it to a BCF needle. Machine that took a lot of machining to get it right. This engine's producing a lot of mid-range torque and it needs a lot of fuel. So what we're now going to do is send the owner out in it. I've also changed the oil in the dash pot, but she's on the money. So as you can hear, it's quite aggressive. So let's see what the owner thinks. Okay, so another inline engine with flywheel balance issues. So this seems to be something that I do find is the Morris Minors and some of the sprites suffer with this harmonic vibration. It does affect some of the minis as well, but it seems to be more prevalent with the Morris Minors. And I think it's just to do with the flywheel and the clutch. I think the owner told me that he got a significantly different type of clutch on it compared to standard, so I'm expecting that to be part of the issue. He also said it wasn't balanced, so it was obviously showing up, but after 4,000 revs the engine became quite out of balance. It was quite a strong vibration on the carburetor, and when you get an issue is where you can put your hand on the carb and you press it hard to dampen that vibration, and the carburetor works properly. In this particular case, when you see that, the SU simply just stops working, leans right out, and nothing happens when that vibration happens. So we were getting that scenario. But having said that, some work for the owner there to actually sort that out. And then what we've agreed in this case is once he's done that work, we'll have another session and we'll get it spot on. Yeah, righto, so next car, we've got an RSP. Nice, lovely RSP. So we need to get under the bonnet and see what we got. Got the usual RSP install. So let's dig in and see what we find on this one. So didn't get much footage on this one, but it didn't really need a lot. Just a set of plugs. Got those at 35 thou. Timing wise, I added 6 degrees of ignition advance because we were a bit retarded. Everything else is working. This is all original and it's all doing what it's supposed to do, which is fantastic. And then we turn our attention to the carburetor. So first of all, I had a flat spot when you open the throttle, so there was no oil in, so I put some oil in. and then we looked at the needle. That was lean all the way up from 2,000 to 5,000 revs. So I've modified the needle. So it's the same needle that's in there, but I've added fuel all the way up the rev range, including progression. And then I had to bring the enrichment on acceleration down. So I went down to 10 weight oil, and it was still a bit rich. So I had to take a file to the damper, but yeah, she's very good now. So. Time for a test drive. Yeah, relatively quick one, this one, simply because very interesting. When you look at a car and you open the bonnet and it's all standard, everything works. So we haven't got to change anything because all the factory stuff is still on and still working properly, which is very good. But it's also very telling because a lot of people change stuff thinking they're making it better and actually make it worse by fitting the wrong coils, wrong plugs, all this sort of stuff. So yeah, very minimal sort of work there. Obviously somebody had changed the air filter because it used to have the RSP had a big plastic box assembly which went right across the front of the engine. So that had been removed and a K&N had got on, and I suspect that was one of the reasons why it was running a little bit lean. So obviously we adjusted that, and then as you can see there, I had to do a little bit of modification on the damper with a file. But yeah, got that one running very well. Needless to say, the owner was actually very, very impressed with how that responded. Now the main issue here is really that is the old MG Metro type engine in there, and she was 6 degrees retarded on ignition time, and that makes a huge difference on those higher compression engines. So being able to do that and then correct the fueling made that car wake up and really go, which is what you'd expect from an RSP. So without further ado, let's move on to the last car that I'm going to feature, and it's one of my favourites, which is a lovely old 1961 850 Mini. And another car, beautiful. Look at this lovely 1961 Mini Minor. Look at that, fantastic car. So let's have a look under the bonnet, and we have a nice rebuilt 850 Mark 1. So complete with the HS2 carb, 25D Dizzy. So let's get stuck in and see what we can find. Okay, so obviously I've got the engine going. The only thing I've done with it is I've changed the spark plugs. We had some BP6s in which obviously for 1275, so no good for an 850. So I've dropped it down to some BP5s. There was nothing wrong with the old spark plugs other than they were the wrong grade. So coil's fine, dwell angle's good. Advance curve's good in the Dizzy. The only thing was I added about 4 degrees of advance, so she's now running about 34 total. In terms of the air filter, very restrictive, so we've got the same as I did previously on another video. Very close pleats on the inside of the air filter, so the customers agreed to go with a K&N. As you can see, the pleats are much better on the inside of that one, so we'll get that in there and then get it checked. I always love doing these old cars, and that's because they're so rewarding to tune. So although this wasn't running too bad, it wasn't running too bad simply because it didn't quite have a standard needle in it. So it was fitted with a GX needle, and it also had a very restricted air filter. So the actual air fuel ratio across the rev range was actually pretty close, okay? But it was only close because there was a cork up the intake via that air filter. So one of these problems you get with these cars is people using the paper air filters in that standard airbox. Now, if you take the air filter out, that flows a lot more air. The airbox is still restrictive because it's a tiny little airbox, and you know, is even restricted on that engine. But people like to keep those airboxes for originality. So what I now do is I now carry the K&N element that goes in the box. Makes a huge difference. So I obviously put that in the airbox and then put it back together with the original needle, and it was just lean off the chart. So huge difference in airflow. So more than 25% change in fueling effectively. So what I therefore did is you know, re-needled that. So we went from the GX needle that was in it, tried an M, that was still too lean, and I ended up with a DZ needle. Yeah, that corrected the fueling, you know, very well. So, yeah, didn't really do a massive amount to this, other than we put a K&N element in the airbox, okay? Made a huge difference, a 25% difference in the mixture. So we had a GX needle, that was way too lean. Obviously not standard that, so somebody had already been in there, but changed it for an M, that was still too lean. So again, on this one, I've gone for a DZ needle, and yeah, she's come up really good. So as usual, it's test drive time. During that tune, I remarked to the owner that the effect of that extra airflow is going to feel like bolting an extra cylinder on the engine. And, you know, he was actually quite surprised, because he come back after the test drive and he said, I thought that ran well before. He said, but it's obviously a lot better now. So it just goes to show that if you've got an old, you know, an old Mini, or, you know, an old 850, even the standard ones respond massively to a tune and increased airflow. And it's one thing to remember, you can't just put the K&N filter in and then leave it, because actually what that will do is it will lean out the fueling and make the car potentially drive worse. So, you know, if you're going to put a K&N filter in on a car like that, or any car that's got a restrictive airbox, that'll unleash more airflow. If you're already lean, your fueling's going to go out. So you have to do it in conjunction with recalibrating the carb to make the actual fueling where it needs to be with the new airflow. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that. Obviously that was some of the highlights of me being away that weekend and tuning those cars. If there are any other clubs out there that want to do a tuning weekend, then please get in contact via Facebook Messenger, and hopefully we can sort something out for you. But as usual, please like, subscribe, share, hype the video, and I'll look forward to seeing you on in the next one. So thank you very much.